You know what's funny? Time management is a complete lie. We've all been told you just need to manage your time better. As if time is some pet you can train. Like if you just try hard enough, time will sit, stay, and roll over on command. But let's be real. You don't own time. You don't control time. Time does whatever it wants. Time moves at the same speed whether you're completing your to-do list, binge watching a show you don't even like, or scrolling endlessly through ridiculous feeds. You can't slow it down. You can't speed it up. You can't put it in the refrigerator and save it for later. Time keeps moving at the same steady pace every day. So here's the truth. You choose what activities fill your time. You don't manage time. You manage what activities are in that time. The question, how do you choose what activities will fill your time? Years ago, a model was introduced called the time matrix. It was designed to help leaders evaluate how they spent their time, categorizing tasks into what was urgent, important, or just plain distractions. And for a while, it seemed like the answer to a never-ending struggle of feeling overwhelmed. Leaders loved it. It made them feel like they could finally take control of their schedules, sort their priorities, and maybe, just maybe, find that elusive work-life balance. But there was one big problem, a flaw so fundamental that it completely missed the mark. The time matrix focused on the wrong thing, time. You see, time is like the weather. It's always moving, always changing, and completely out of your control. You don't spend time the way you spend money. You can't save it, invest it, or store it up for later. No matter how hard you try, you will never own time. But you do own something even more powerful, your activities. They believe, leaders, that's where most leaders get stuck. They believe growth requires more time, that if they can't dedicate an hour to reading, working out, or learning something new, then why even bother? They think, I'll start when I have more time, as if the universe will one day tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, congrats, here's a whole extra hour just for you. But that's complete nonsense. Growth isn't about finding more time. It's about choosing the right activities, no matter how much time they take. Some days you'll have an hour to read. Other days you'll get through a single paragraph. But on both days, as long as you read, you grew. Some days you'll hit the gym for a full workout. Other days, you'll do 5 push-ups before collapsing onto the couch. But on both days, you built strength. The mistake isn't that leaders don't have time. The mistake is believing that if they don't have a lot of time, they shouldn't even start. But the secret to growth isn't time. It's about the activities you choose to fill the time. So how do you go about choosing the activities that are valuable and will help you lead and grow? That really depends on who you want to be, and honestly, that's another conversation all on its own. For this conversation, let's completely reframe the time matrix to an activity matrix and see how that makes a huge difference. The activity matrix is built on 4 quadrants, each representing a different type of activity that fills your time. Let's define each quadrant. Quadrant 1, this is the place of urgent and important activities. Quadrant 1 is survival mode. The land of crisis, looming deadlines, and fires that need to be put out right now. It's where you don't just manage your activities, you fight through them because the consequences of ignoring them are immediate and severe. For example, a key client is about to leave, so you drop everything to save the deal. Your child spikes a high fever in the middle of the night, so you rush them to the doctor. Your boss calls with an emergency presentation that's due in 2 hours, so you scramble to put it together. Your company's website crashes during a big launch, so you and your team pull an all-nighter to fix it. These are the moments that demand action, where delaying is not an option. Quadrant 1 activities have to get done, and often they come with stress, pressure, and a whole lot of adrenaline. And here's the thing, you can't avoid quadrant one. Life happens. Unexpected problems arise. Deadlines sneak up. Emergencies come out of nowhere. Quadrant one activities are not leadership activities. They are survival activities. They keep things running. They prevent disaster. They solve problems in the moment, but they don't move you forward. If all you ever do is operate in quadrant one, you'll always feel busy, but never ahead. You'll wake up each day thinking, I have so much to do. But by the time you go to bed, you won't feel like you made any real progress. That's because survival isn't the same as growth and leadership. Growth happens in quadrant two. Quadrant two is where the magic is. It's where you invest in the things that don't feel urgent today, but will determine your future tomorrow. Q2 activities don't demand your attention like Q1 activities do. They don't come with flashing red lights or emergency phone calls. They don't make you panic or stress out. And that's exactly why they're so easy to ignore. For example, exercising today won't make you instantly healthier, but doing it consistently will prevent health problems down the road. Reading one chapter of a book won't change your life today, but over time, it will expand your thinking and give you a leadership edge. Spending an hour mentoring your team might not feel urgent, but doing it regularly will create stronger leaders who don't need you to fix everything for them. Strengthening relationships with your family or spouse won't solve a problem today, but it will create deep connections that will carry you through life's challenges. Q2 is where you build. It's where you improve, refine, and get better before you're forced to. The reason most leaders don't spend enough time or don't categorize activities in Q2 is simple. Growth is not urgent. No one's going to email you demanding that you work on yourself. Your calendar won't scream at you to invest in relationships. You won't get a notification reminding you to prepare for the future. And that's why so many leaders push off Q2 activities until they, quote, have time. I'll work out when my schedule isn't so busy. I'll start reading when things calm down. I'll invest in my team when I'm not overwhelmed. Here's the irony. If you never invest in Q2, you will always be overwhelmed because when you neglect growth, things start to break. And when things break, they become emergencies. And when they become emergencies, guess what? They move to quadrant one. Ignoring Q2 is what keeps Q1 full. Neglect your health long enough, you'll be forced to deal with a medical emergency. Ignore professional development. You'll constantly be putting out fires in your career. Fail to strengthen relationships. One day you'll wake up in crisis mode trying to fix what's broken. So, if you want less stress, fewer emergencies, and more control over your life, there's only one way to do it. Make Q2 activities a part of your daily life. The question is how? How do you do the valuable growth activities every day? Well, before we discuss that, let's define the rest of the quadrants. Quadrant 3 is sneaky. Unlike Quadrant 1, which demands your attention with flashing lights and emergencies, and Quadrant 2, which holds the key to long-term success, Quadrant 3 pretends to be important, but is not. This is where urgent, but not important activities live. They feel necessary in the moment, but they don't actually help you grow or move forward. For example, answering non-essential emails the second they arrive, jumping into meetings that don't need you, saying yes to every request just because it's urgent for someone else, getting pulled into minor team issues that could be handled without you, spending an hour responding to messages instead of doing deep meaningful work. Q3 activities steal your focus under the illusion of productivity. You feel busy, you feel needed, but at the end of the day, you look back and think, what did I actually accomplish? And here's why quadrant 3 is so dangerous. It feeds off your desire to be helpful. Someone asks, hey, can you take a look at this really quick? And because you're a good person, you say, sure. A WhatsApp message pops up, and instead of ignoring it, you respond immediately. A meeting invite lands in your inbox, and without thinking, you accept because, well, everyone else is going. And just like that, your day gets filled with everyone else's priorities instead of your own. Now, don't get me wrong. Some Q3 tasks need to be done. But the key is recognizing that just because something is urgent for someone else doesn't mean it's important for you. And if quadrant 3 is the distraction trap, quadrant 4 is even worse. Let's talk about the black hole of invaluable activities. These are activities that take up space in your life but give you nothing in return. They aren't urgent, they aren't important, and the worst part, they make you feel like you're doing something when you're actually doing nothing. Quadrant 4 isn't just about mindless scrolling or binge watching TV, it's about activities that keep you busy without adding any value. For example, at work, rewriting your to-do list instead of just tackling a task. Sitting in a meeting that doesn't require your input, but feeling productive because you're a few minutes instead of focusing on deep work. Refreshing your inbox every few minutes. Over-researching a decision without ever making one. Fixating on minor details that don't impact the big picture. Let's look at your personal life. Scrolling through social media for just a minute and looking up an hour later and realizing, whoa, where did the time go? Rearranging your garage, desk, or closet again instead of actually doing something meaningful. Watching random TV shows you don't even enjoy just to pass the time. Checking your phone out of habit instead of being present with loved ones. Over-planning a vacation, project, or goal, but never taking action. The danger of quadrant 4 isn't just that it wastes time. It's that it feels like progress when it's not. You feel busy. You feel occupied. But at the end of the day, you haven't grown, built, or improved anything. And that's what makes Q4 so dangerous. It tricks you into thinking you're working hard when really you're doing nothing. If you want to be a great leader, the secret is choosing the right activities and making them a consistent part of your life. That's why great leaders set up quadrant 2 streaks. Leadership isn't built in crisis mode, Q1, and it's certainly not found in distractions, Q3, or wasted effort, Q4. Leadership grows through consistent, intentional activities, the ones that shape relationships, inspire teams, and create long-term impact. And here's the key. It's not about how long you spend on something. It's about whether or not you do it. For example, a daily streak of writing and sending a thank you text will do more to inspire your team than any grand speech. It doesn't take an hour. It doesn't require a meeting. But that small, consistent act of gratitude will transform how people feel about working with you. Quadrant 2 leadership streaks could include recognizing one team member daily to reinforce a culture of appreciation, asking a thoughtful question to deepen conversations and connections, giving one piece of positive feedback to encourage growth, reading something that challenges your thinking to expand your leadership skills, reaching out to a mentor or peer to keep learning and growing. These activities don't demand a huge amount of time, but they create massive results over time. The best leaders aren't the ones who step in only when there's a crisis. The best leaders are the ones who show up every day in small but meaningful ways. Once upon a time, there was a leader who learned a valuable lesson. He had been leading a team for years. Hardworking, driven people who respected him, but there was always a distance. He wasn't the kind of leader they celebrated, just the one they reported to. He ran a tight ship, met deadlines, solved problems, and kept the team moving. But something was missing. One day, at a leadership conference, he heard a speaker say, "If you want to inspire people, don't wait for the big moments. Start with the small ones. Set a streak to appreciate, to notice, to care." That hit him. He realized that while he was good at managing, he was not leading. So he made a simple decision. Every day, he would send at least one thank you message to someone on his team. Just one. And he challenged himself to see how long he could keep this streak alive. It wasn't a long email, not a grand gesture, just a simple, thoughtful message recognizing something good someone had done. Sometimes it was as short as, "Hey, I saw how you handled that tough client today. That was incredible work. Thank you." Other days, it was a longer note of appreciation. At first, nothing changed. Then, about a month in, he noticed something different. Leaders and people started smiling more when they walked into meetings. They started opening up more in conversations. His team wasn't just showing up for the job, they were showing up for each other. Months later, during a team gathering, one of his employees stood up and said, "I used to feel invisible here. I thought no one really saw what I did. But then one day, I got a message from you, and then another, and I realized someone does see me, and that changed everything for me." At that moment, this hardworking, driven leader understood something profound. Leadership isn't about time. It's about moments. It's about what you choose to do every single day. That's the power of a streak. A streak does not require time. It fills time. It doesn't require a massive shift. But because small, meaningful actions done consistently have the power to change leaders, teams, and lives, you do it all the time. So the question isn't, do I have time to be a better leader? The question is, what small action can I start today that will make the biggest difference over time? Because leadership isn't built in one big moment. It's built in the moments you create every day.